How's it going? My name's Spencer, and welcome to Chats with Spencer, where I like to ask my guests fun and unique questions so you and I can get to know them a little bit better. My guest today is a professional Pokemon TCG player who has won 3 international championships in the Masters division. He's also a writer and video creator for channelfireball.com, and you can also catch him on Twitch. Hailing all the way from Norway, Tord Reklev. Tord, welcome to the show.
Thank you. We're very cool to be here, so excited for that.
Thank you. I'm very excited too. I've only been playing the game for maybe like a year or so, and I remember watching you at the International Championships in 2019, and that's when I became a fan. So it's very exciting to have you on here as well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So that's cool.
Tord, can you just tell us maybe a little bit about how you got in the game or leading up to getting into the game for you?
So I actually got into the game when I was very little. I started playing the game when I was 6 years old, and my mom actually taught me. So it was this big craze when I was little, right? Everyone was collecting these cards and all of that, but my mom thought that if you were to first buy them, you might as well use them for something, right? They're just not sit in the drawer or whatever. If you were to buy them, you might as well learn how to play with them, since she saw that was an actual card game. So she learned the game herself, and then she taught it to me. And so I knew how to play with the cards from a very young age. The first, we didn't use the full rules to make it a little easier for me to understand everything. So we didn't play with weakness or resistance, and like the extra effects on the attacks we didn't bother with either, just the energies and the damage, basically, trying to simplify it as much as possible. But then I quickly learned how to read these cards and know the full effects, and we added all the other stuff eventually. But so yeah, I learned how to play with the games when I was very young. It took me 5 years until I realized that people actually play this competitive as well. And I just happened to stumble upon my local league doing the Oxys download event for my Game Boy. And that's how I discovered the competitive scene, and I've just been playing ever since. I was barely not a junior anymore. I was 11 that year. So I started to play, so my first year in senior, basically.
Okay. Do you remember the first deck you ever made, or it doesn't have to be maybe your very first deck, but maybe your first competitive deck that you made?
Yeah. My very first competitive deck was an LBS deck. Stands for Lugia EX, Blastoise EX, Steelix EX. It was this really cool multi-type deck where you set up a Blastoise to fuel all these crazy attackers you normally wouldn't be able to. And that was a really cool deck. I got help from the current master player in Norway at the time. His name was Simon. Okay. And he was sort of my mentor, taught me how to actually play with real decks. And that was the first one really made, all with help from him. So I was still really thankful to him for kicking me or kickstart my competitive life greatly. So I didn't have to go through a lot of like medium decks all the way up to like the top. I could just go straight to the very best deck, and at the time, and just continue playing from there. So that definitely helped me a lot, like speeding up the process.
All right. So you kind of mentioned that you discovered the competitive format through your Game Boy. So were you a fan of the franchise as a video game as well?
Yeah, I was very much into the franchise, and still is. Like like everything Pokemon. So I watched the TV series every Saturday, and I played all the Game Boy games. Had a Game Boy Color for Pokemon Blue and Yellow, and I bought the next generation as they came out together with the cards and all of that. So I was very heavily invested into the franchise through my whole life, basically. So I just stuck to it, basically.
Very nice. Is there any one of those games that stands out to you as the best Pokemon video game?
Oh yeah, actually, I think my favorites are the ones on the Nintendo GameCube. They
Oh,
released
okay.
Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. They were really
Okay.
cool because they were so different, and they felt really ahead of their time because they were all 3D, and there were this sort of open world type of feeling to it, even though it was
Okay.
not complete open world, but it felt really ahead of its time, and I still think they were. So those are probably my favorites, and also the whole thing that you can catch your opponent's Pokemon was a really really cool thing with and really unique to these games. So really enjoyed those.
Okay. All right. So, is there a card toward in the history of Pokemon through competitive play that you initially thought was really bad, and then it turned out to be really good, or vice versa? You thought this card was really good, and everyone else was like, "No, no, no, this card's terrible," but it actually turned out to be really good.
There's been a couple cards like that over the many years I've played. I think if we want to do some more recent examples, I think Zorak was probably the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Zorak was announced, it was mostly looked as a little handicapped auxiliary because you can get you were most likely drawing less cards than with auxiliary,
Mm-hmm.
and it was also worth 2 prizes in a format where Gardevoir Gallade was the most played deck, most hyped deck. So there wasn't really any reason to play Zorak, right? And attack didn't look great either, maxed at 120, which wasn't really good enough to knock out anything. And also, if it wasn't bad enough that it was going to get one-shotted by Gallade, you also had to fight the resistance part of war. So it was just not great at all against that deck, or so it was predicted, right? So but it turned out that the card was pretty good and
Yeah.
kind of dominated until it left the format, just because of the incredible ability it has. And also, the attack is also no joke. You can easily
Mm-hmm.
at least two-shot, even if you can't one-shot things, you can at least two-shot things with it. And if you give it good partners, then you can cover all the weaknesses the card has.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was probably uh, the most underlooked card that I was just immediately like, you know what? I'm building a deck with this. I'm putting 4 of this in my deck. I don't care. I just need this thing to work. This ability is just incredible. I need to make this thing work. So I spent a couple months on that, and then I brought Sauropod to the European International, and that was probably the most fun tournament I had in my life. People just picking up on reading Zorak. I was like, how are you reading it? This is just the best card I printed ever. What? That was a lot of fun.
Very nice. What aspect of the game do you enjoy the most? Is it the traveling? Is it the camaraderie? Is it the winning? What do you think?
I mean, I'm a very, very competitive person.
Okay.
So I think one of the aspects I enjoy the most is simply just the competition and
Okay.
like the grind and all the effort I need to put in to try to come out on top. I find that experience is really thrilling and really exciting. So I think it's probably that. So I could like apply this to other games as well, like if I wanted to switch ever. But
Okay.
again, the Pokemon has been and it still is the franchise I like the most, like by far, and always been a huge part of my life. So it just makes sense for me to stick with this game, and I do enjoy it a lot. So
Sure.
yeah.
So kind of related to that, my next question is, if you could teach Pokemon to anybody, even throughout history, who would you teach it to? I think it would, for anybody who's not played the game, it's super fun, pretty easy to pick up, but hard to master kind of thing. So who would you like to share the game with?
I don't know. That's it's kind of tricky question. Could be probably someone that was really good in some other sort of game or sport, and then I could see how quickly they were able to pick up something different again. Because that I think could be kind of interesting to look at. And vice versa. If someone that was really good in another game wanted to teach me something that they were the best in, that would also be really cool for me to see how fast I could pick up and like how fast I could advance in that game as well. I don't really know who to pick. I don't have anything prepared for that, but it'd be cool to just pick someone that is the best in something and see how quickly they can pick up the game.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see other TCG players playing Pokemon, see how maybe the skills transfer over, and vice versa.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. So you might have answered this question already, but if you had to play one deck for the rest of your life, you can only play one deck, and just out of pure, this is just the deck you enjoy playing. Which deck would that be?
I mean, any deck I think can get pretty stale if you are stuck with it for the rest of your playing career, I guess. But um, I mean, there are a couple decks that has a lot of things to it, and that's always adapting and changing. Probably, you know what? Honestly, I think Gardevoir Gallade from
Okay.
the 2007 to 2010 formats. It was just the best deck for 3 years straight, and there was a good reason for it. It had a ridiculous amount of consistency and options in every match-point game. You had Gardevoir has a power that lets you look at your opponent's discard pile every turn and use a supporter in there. So
Okay.
that way, even if the format still progresses and you release new cards, new supporters, then Gardevoir could continue to pick up that supporter, right? And the new deck kind of in that way, if you were to get stuck with one deck, then this deck kind of lets you progress with the format and still use the new supporters and all of that. The deck also has Gallade. It's a one pricer, and its first attack puts your opponent down to 50 HP, no matter how much HP they have.
Okay.
So that would also be cool because that would also scale with the format. Even if
Yes.
they have like 400 HP and are worth 5 prices, whatever, that will still put them down to 50, so they can finish them off in just 2 attacks anyway. So, and the Gardevoir also has Power Lock and Ability Lock, basically. So that's also really strong, cool option. The deck has Claydol, probably the best draw Pokemon ever printed. For those who doesn't know what that does, it has a power ability that lets you put 1 or 2 cards on the bottom of your deck and then draw until you have 6 cards.
Oh,
That's also incredible because you get to preserve your cards and at the same time you get to a hand refresh, and you can do that every turn. And that was also just amazing as a power. I wish we had like some as powerful powers in the format now. I really miss those because both players just put a Claydol in play and no one was breaking anymore that game, right? You both get to play the game with all your resources. So that could have been really cool if they printed something like that again.
nice. Yeah, definitely a really interesting answer looking at it from a multitude of perspectives. And I like how you kind of talked about how it would adapt to different formats as well. So just speaking about the current format, what are your thoughts on the current format? Do you enjoy it? Do you think it needs to be shaken up a little bit?
The current format is actually okay. My biggest critique to the format is that it's a little too fast. So games are ending in very few turns. Even though the turns are still kind of hard and long because you have a lot to do. And I think the consistency level of decks is probably at an all-time high, honestly. You have access to Quick Ball, the Dene, Crobat, Eldegoss. You have Research Marnie. You have Boss, like just a guest supporter, I mean. And you have really cheap attacking Pokemon, and most of them are just basics as well, which also makes it much easier to get your deck rolling. So consistency-wise, If you try to revisit old formats now, you will see that the decks are breaking a crap ton, and that's just not something you're used to when you come from the standard format now. But you're still hating on the standard format because the games last very few turns compared to the old formats. So if the new format were played kinda similar, but like with the consistency bit, but it wasn't over as quickly, I think it would be just a lot better. So I think the game should just be prolonged by 1 or 2 turns. If games just lasted a little bit longer, it would be much more interesting, because the more turns you have in a game, the more decisions has to be made, and that's usually what ends up in the better player coming out on top. When you have very few turns, the game tends to snowball a lot, and the person just getting the first knockout or the first big power play is just probably just winning. So and when that's not happening, it's because your opponent got a lucky reset stamp or something, and that also doesn't feel great. So people really don't like how games are being decided these days, and I think that's the issue. It doesn't come down to resources; it comes down to tempo, and I think people are more happy when the game comes down to resources. That also dictates that the game lasts a lot longer, though. But I think that's the big difference: games just being too tempo based and not resource based.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. All right. So, was there ever a card that you liked a lot and you wanted it to work in decks, but it never quite worked toward?
I mean, I got one card coming to mind. There was this Dragonite EX. I bought a playset of it in real life as soon as it was released, and it just never accomplished anything. You benched it, and you can move all the energy in play onto it and just put it in active. Now I was like, this is great. I can just put 3 energy in play, and then I can just bench another Dragonite every turn, just put it up and heal, basically, because then if they don't one-shot me, then I get to keep all my energies and just continue to attack and attack. But in the end, I don't even think I made a list for the card, because it was just so underwhelming, and that was kind of a letdown. But yeah, I don't know, it was just, at least that one comes to mind, because I bought a playset of it and I just couldn't find a way to make it work at all. So that was a little bit disappointing.
Okay. Is there one aspect, mechanic, or idea from another TCG, whether that be in paper or online, that you'd like implemented in Pokemon?
I mean, personally, I think so, but I'm not sure how well it would actually fit.
Okay.
Or you know what? There's one thing that would fit that we could do, and that is Mulligan from Magic.
Yes.
In Magic, you're allowed to replace your starting hand if it's just completely unplayable, and you don't really want to play the game with that one, with another one. But the trade-off is that you get one less card. You can do something similar in Pokemon, I guess, where you look at your opening hand and it's like you want the Dana in deck, and you're sitting there like, you know what? I don't really want to do this. Obviously, it's a little different because in Magic, card advantage is a whole different thing than in Pokemon. In Pokemon, you have cards that just draw the Dana, draw 6, research draw 7. That's just unheard of in Magic. There, you ban cards that just straight up draw 2, because that's too broken. So card advantage is just something completely different. So I'm not sure what the handicap would be. Maybe just giving the player one less card is not good enough. But at the same time, since you're allowed to draw so many cards anyway, it maybe it is fine. There's just, okay, both players have that possibility of just getting a new hand if just the first one is too bad, and they get one less card, and that's fine, right? You can't do it forever. You eventually will just sit there with 1 or 2 cards and be like, yeah, okay, I guess I start with this. So it's a trade-off there as well, I guess. You probably don't do it more than 1 or 2 times anyway. Yeah, maybe Mulligan could be cool in Pokemon.
Okay. Have you dabbled at all in Magic the Gathering?
If I what?
Have you played any Magic in your just over the years, just even casually?
Oh yeah, I've been playing a little bit, like enough to learn the game.
Okay.
And I played one or two local tournaments and a couple drafts, but not a whole lot. I played some because I was interested. I wanted to see how it worked and like try it out a little. But no, I haven't been really competing or going to a regionals Magic or anything, or even put myself into knowing all the meta decks. It just I scratched the surface enough to know the game, but not further.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna shift gears from Pokemon just for a little bit and go to some more quick questions, but feel free to elaborate on these. Okay, so I'm gonna change my first question because I heard you like tennis. So I'm gonna say, who's your favorite tennis player?
It's Roger Federer.
All right.
He's from Switzerland,
Yes.
and he has a really cool way of playing because he's usually relying on being a trickster. So trying to win a lot of points by shaping up his play. So the other top players are like Nadal and Djokovic. They have other strengths. They rely on pure strength, for example, just slamming the ball at million miles per hour, and Nadal just being very grindy and consistent. Just always somehow getting the ball over the net again and again, and until your opponent just runs out of stamina and eventually wins. But Federer is always shapes up his play and does a lot of cool stuff. So he's really enjoyable to watch. So that's why he's my favorite.
Yeah, for sure. My family's been a Federer fan for a while, so it's kind of like indoctrinated into me that I need to like him. So, I mean, his forehand is like a one-handed forehand. The angles that man hits and the spin he puts on the ball is just unreal. If you've not watched tennis or aren't too familiar with Roger Federer, please go look up some highlights of him, and it's hard to fathom what he does sometimes.
For sure.
All right. Do you prefer dogs or cats, Tord?
Cats.
Spring or autumn?
Spring, I think. Yeah, definitely spring. I think winter is fine, but autumn is just a really sad season, especially here in Norway. It's raining most of the time, and there is it almost feels colder than in winter because it's mainly so wet and cold that it just
Okay.
gives you the chills every time, and it's dark and meh. But in the winter, at least it's snow, and that kind of lights up everything. And since there is minus degrees, then things are not that wet anymore. You can walk outside fine. So yeah, I think definitely like spring more than autumn because that's just the worst season. So, but
Fair enough.
all other seasons are fine.
Okay. All right. So this question I'm going to ask you, I have no idea. I haven't talked to someone from Europe yet. So, do you prefer M&Ms or Skittles? And I'm not quite sure. Are Skittles in Europe?
I mean, I guess they are. I think M&Ms anyway, though.
Yes, I figured. Okay.
Yeah, have to go.
Okay. Sorry. Can you tell us about one of your favorite movies?
I'm not sure. I'm not really that much of a movie guy.
Okay.
I like a lot of Disney movies, though. I'm
Okay.
cool that way. Wreck-It Ralph was really cool. I like that one.
Okay.
Kind of cheesy, but I like that one.
Yeah, that's fair. Would you prefer an adventurous or a relaxing vacation?
Can you say that again?
Adventurous or relaxing vacation?
Oh, relaxing for sure.
Okay, and kind of a follow up to that, where is the best place that you have visited?
So the best vacation I ever had was when my family and I went to Hawaii in 2012 for the
Okay.
Pokemon World Championship, and we were there a couple extra weeks course, it's really far, right?
Mm.
So when when first going, you figure that it might as well be there a little bit and just not for the event, right? This is something we won't probably do again, like ever. So might as well take some extra weeks. So we did that, and that was a really nice trip. Everything was really relaxing and so pretty, and yeah, can't say enough good things about Hawaii. So.
Okay. All right. If you went to the corner store, what is your go-to snack? So what would you buy?
It's like a kiosk, right?
Yes, yes, just like where you can get like candy or like chips or just that kind of thing.
Ah, I mean, I would probably try to look for a baguette or something because if I'm hungry, I don't really like to eat candy.
Okay, that's fair.
Uh, so it'd probably be a baguette and maybe a banana if I can't find that. But I'm a big fan of like anything bread. So I would look for
Okay.
a baguette or like something else bread, preferably ham and cheese or whatever on that as well. So that would be my go-to as
Okay.
if I were just hungry looking for something on the corner.
All right. And do, is there one TV show or movie from your childhood that really stands out?
I mean, it's probably Pokemon again, right? The Pokemon
Okay.
TV series. I was watching that a lot. My favorite Pokemon movie is the fourth one. It has
Okay.
Celebi in it, obviously. My
Okay.
favorite Pokemon. So
Mhm.
I really like that movie. I think it was that movie that made Celebi my favorite Pokemon as well. So I can pick that one.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna go back and talk a little bit more about the game. So where would you like to see Pokemon Go in the next few years?
Mm, I mean, it's on a good course. I would like some changes to the online series, though, like the online
Mhm.
program.
Yes.
Anything they do at this point would be just a massive improvement. Like I'm happy with mainly anything they do to change that up and make it better. Obviously, if we could get some sort of rank ladder, that would be preferable. I would think that could help the growth of the game a lot. So that's probably on top of my list. Just changes to the online clients. For ERL tournaments, they seem to be doing pretty fine. The game was growing before Corona. Events had more and more people in it every time, and it was usually by a good amount as well, like a couple hundred. So
Mhm.
it wasn't a really good course, and yeah, just updating the client, and then we should be good to go, and just continue on the course it was. It seemed to be doing pretty well.
I'm just wondering, in regards to the client, has it changed since day one, or is it pretty much the same program?
It has changed, but
Okay.
not by a lot. It has always had like that beta feeling to it, like
Mhm.
when they released it. So at least when they first released it, like at the very first, you could not even play against other people. You have to play
Oh,
against the
jeez.
computer, and you were
Mhm.
only allowed to play with team decks. That was the very beginning. I think they fixed that kind of fast. Didn't
Okay.
take too long, but I guess
All
like
right.
so that's something. But I
Mhm.
guess that was not even beta. That was like alpha version. So that was very early. Um,
Okay.
I guess it's mostly been cosmetic
Mhm.
updates so far, and also been some improvements here and there to get rid of bugs. But there is a lot of really loaded opinions about the online program. A lot of hate against it as well because they believe people can do better. So I don't really want to go full in on that discussion, but
That's fair.
there are definitely things that could be better and that we are really missing in the program. So maybe someday we'll get some improvements there.
Yeah, that fingers crossed for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, so just with the recent So just in some recent videos, I'm not going to name anybody in particular, but there's been kind of a uptick in interest in Pokemon, particularly on the collecting aspect
Yeah.
uh, of it. Are you for that kind of thing? I mean, it is bringing more attention to the game, which is great. But just overall, what are your opinions on that kind of thing?
I mean, I think that brings more attention to the game is good, but I don't know how big of an overlap it will be between the players that like to watch people crack open packs and the people that will come into the competitive aspect of the game. Um, I don't know how much that will actually overlap, but it's it could, right? And the possibility of it is a good thing. So definitely happy to see it. And I also have a lot of cards, so all my cards like 10 doubling in value. It doesn't hurt me either. So I'm okay with that too. So uh, yeah, I'm more than fine with the situation there.
Okay, I just thought of this question. I had it earlier in the back of my mind. But Tord, what do you do with your decks that you win a major tournament with? Are they just still in the sleeves from and a deck box from that tournament, or do you do something special with them?
You know what? I actually wish I could say that, but normally I only have a playset of one thing. So,
Okay.
and a lot of decks are kind of built similar or have the same engine, right? You're just switching out Pokemon and Energy in a lot of cases until they print better consistency cards. Talking about now the supporters, the items, Quick Ball, Ultra Ball, right? For example, the Tapuleles I have and the double colorless, I use those in like 5 different big tournament winning decks, right? So I only had like one playset of those that I liked, so I had to switch them around in all my decks. So I couldn't really like, okay, I want a big tournament with this, really cool. So I have this deck, I just put it here and preserve it forever. But now I need the cards, so I need to like take the cards out and put them into new deck and continue playing with them. I mean, I guess I could, if I really wanted, I could buy all the cards again every time I won a big tournament with them, so I didn't have to take them out. But I did not do that. Now later though, I've been building up all my old decks and gotten some extra cards. Like that's just a long time after, so it's not going to be the original sleeves, but
Yes.
some of the decks will have the original cards, but I didn't own 16 Zorax, right? So some of them have to be new. I want to have all the decks built at the same time. Uh, but I did build up my old internet decks, and that have been pretty fun. Did it kind of recently, actually, just a couple of weeks ago.
All right, interesting. All right, last question is when it's all said and done, you've officially chosen to not play Pokemon TCG anymore. What's the impact you hope that you leave on the game?
Well, if I ever quit the game, then I want to be remembered as a good player and a good innovator that made a lot of cool decks and introduced a lot of new strategies and builds to the game that might not have happened without me. Um, kind of big deal to say, but I I think that's my hope that happens.
Yeah, I think when it's all said and done, I think your impact on the game will be felt by the community for sure.
I hope so. That would be really cool.
All right, Tord, thanks again for coming on. Do you have anything to talk about upcoming things that you're involved in that you might want to share?
There are always things coming up and stuff, but nah, I think I'm fine actually. We can just leave it at that. All good.
Okay, all right. So thanks again for Tord for coming on the show. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next video.